Mike and Virginia Chevalier are not only die-hard Broncos fans, but they've supported DNVR for a long time, and they're a husband and wife team with over 15 years of financial services experience. Visit them down at DNVRmortgage.com and enter to win a free DNVR shirt or hat when you do. And most importantly, get set up for a free consultation to discuss all of your options. That's DNVRmortgage.com, since your home is likely to be one of your largest assets and your mortgage likely your largest debt. They believe it's vital to consider your full financial picture when purchasing a home. This includes considering your short-term and long-term planning goals, your investments, and your tax situation. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for your situation when you visit them at dnvrmortgage.com or call them at 303-257-6578. That's Michael Chevalier, NMLS number 1931006, and Virginia Chevalier, NMLS number 1910631. Chevalier Mortgage. Check them out.
Number one for the one and only DNVR. Two goes out to Zach, Mace, RK, and the bar. Three for Mr. B in that old trophy case. Number four, we're still waiting for. Well, bring on Chase. Out on the field, a mile high, Broncos win is our desire. Couple with a breakfast crew and a friend, bleed orange and blue till the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
Welcome in to the DNVR Broncos podcast presented by MSU Denver Online. Check them out, msudenver.edu/online, to scope out all they have to offer. So many different opportunities to further your education with rigorous and affordable online programs taught by professors who bring the real world into the classroom. So head over to msudenver.edu/online today and see everything they have to offer. It truly is the best place to head for your online education. So check them out. Oh, he's muted. Oh, he muted the play.
Oh, my boy. What's up? Happy hump day. And man, Broncos football one day closer.
We need the Price is Right losing horn sound effect when Zach is trying to say "my boys" and he's muted himself. I mean, that's the only thing we need to hear.
You can just make the noise yourself, Mace.
Not as well as I can on the show. I mean, I go boom, 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 wow.
Like I think I said this once before, but you know, we made it to Super Bowl. We made it to the Super Bowl. Here we are. We get out for our first offensive snap, and Zach just snapped it right over my head for a second.
Hey. Oh wow! So that means there's no coming back then.
Yeah. The show is doomed from here. Anyways, welcome into the show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Happy Wednesday. This feels like a Wednesday. That's right. Yeah. And we are one day closer to Broncos-Chiefs on Sunday. A bit of a, I don't know what to call this. Like I keep wanting to call it a litmus test, but I just don't think that's fair. Because I think a litmus test implies if you win, you're good, and if you lose, you suck. And I don't think that's where this team is at. But I think this is a huge game for the narrative surrounding Drew Lock. As we learned last week, I guess every game is going to be a huge game for the narrative surrounding Drew Lock. Maybe every throw is a huge throw for the narrative surrounding Drew Lock. But for Drew, he has another opportunity to go up against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. The last one was super fluky, and on the road and in the snow. And it might be in the snow again, but at least he has a little more experience under his belt, and he's not going to be in front of, however many thousand Chiefs fans screaming their heads off. So I want to ask you guys this. Obviously, Drew Lock is not going to outduel, or should not be expected to outduel Patrick Mahomes this week. So what should be expected of Drew Lock? What is a successful start for him? And what is a game that makes you feel really good about Drew Lock going forward? Mace, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, he can't be expected to outduel him. And I would even say this, he could do very well and show a lot of positives about himself, and the Broncos could lose and could even lose by 10 points.
Yeah.
What you're looking for from him, first of all, this is beyond him. I want to see a little bit more help from the pass catchers. I don't want to see 4 drops this week. I mean, if again, part of the narrative, the overall narrative beyond what discussion we're having here is based on is not taking into account those drops. So I think people need to account for that from last week, but also say, okay, get him a little bit of help. But if we're talking about, say, let's say we're looking at numbers, if we have to put a set of numbers on it,
which, as we saw last weekend, numbers aren't everything. Right.
Well, let's assume that there's a normal rate of drops this week. So if there had been a normal rate of drops last week, the Broncos would have had 1 or 2, not 4. So what I'd like to see from him is completing about 2/3 of his passes. It'll help to have Noah Fant back working those underneath routes and those short outs that he likes. If he's in the range of, say, 20 of 31, 240 yards, and a couple of touchdowns, and hopefully no picks. I want to see a clean game from Drew Lock in this game. And some of those throws are high leverage throws. He's keeping the team in the game. Honestly, I'm happy with it. If you have a game where Patrick Mahomes makes a big play and then Drew Lock comes back with a very effective drive, the sort of thing of saying, okay, if Patrick Mahomes ups the ante, Drew Lock responds to that on his next series. That's the kind of thing you're looking for. Somebody who can at least who shows the potential of going play for play, series for series, being able to keep up with a Patrick Mahomes led team. If we see that, I think we're going to be happy with it. And it may even go beyond the numbers. It may be just one of those things where you see it and you feel it, you see it and you know.
Yeah, exactly. And there's going to be a lot of eye test with this, just like with Patrick Mahomes. When you watch him, he has the stats, but he also has the eye test. He passes out with flying colors. With Drew, I'm going to set the bar low. What I need to see from this Broncos offense is 20-plus points and a touchdown. I need to see them get in the end zone, and I don't care how many drops there are. At a certain point, you got to overcome those, and the Broncos have to get in the end zone. So I'm setting the bar low here. Get in the end zone. Give me 20 points because the Broncos weren't able to do that last week. And, of course, they've had lots of struggles with that. And I need to see him have more touchdowns than interceptions.
All right. Let me just check something out here. So Broncos score 1 touchdown and 5 field goals and lose the game 34-22. You're saying good stuff, boys.
I'm saying they did the minimum. Minimum.
The minimum to get a passing grade.
Yeah, I don't know about that. 1 touchdown and 5 field goals, so some more red zone meltdowns. And if they're not on drop passes, and the other thing is, how did you get to that 34-22? I think how you get to the score matters because the Broncos could lose 34-24 and be behind 34-10, and then you get a couple of late touchdowns. And
well, wait, guys.
And those are going to be as cold as the snow. I mean,
I think your expectations are out of check. If you're saying 22 points is not, passing minimum expectations, the Broncos with Drew Lock are averaging 20 points per game. So that would be above the expectations there.
With a bunch of field goals?
I think it would be more than they've put up. I mean, what are your guys' expectations? I'm saying that's the minimum. I want to see, I need to see 20 points and the touchdown, and you guys are laughing at that, but I mean that's what Drew Lock has done when he's been the starter.
Kinda.
Whoa, no. That's what the numbers are. That's what he's done.
Right, but you also have a 3-point game in the snow in a blizzard skewing those numbers. So here's what I think. If that was the case, Broncos fans are going to be beside themselves because that means the Broncos could have won that football game because they had 5 scoring opportunities that they turned into 3 points each time. And I would actually be on their side that's disappointing that 2 weeks in a row field goals, kept you from putting up a legitimate score, and that kept you from winning the football game. Red zone execution kept you from winning the football game. Now, I don't know if that's going to be on Drew Lock or the receivers or whatever, but I know there would be a lot of frustration. I need to see them score more than 24 points. That's the bar for me for good offensive play. You have to score more than 24. And I think for Drew, I just want to see the process be there. I think, Mace you kind of hit it on the head with the stats. You want to see over about 66% completions. In the 60 to 66 range is cool with me. You want to see, multiple touchdowns, even, it doesn't necessarily have to come from Drew's hands, but you want to see them scoring touchdowns, and you want to see them avoiding turnovers, and especially Drew. You have to avoid turnovers. We talked yesterday so much about the formula for stopping the Chiefs on defense. Tell you what, if you give them short fields, the formula's out the door. They're going to score touchdowns, and you are going to fall behind. So you cannot give them short fields. Drew has to be smart with the ball. Again, you go back to that Kansas City game last year. They were struggling so hard to create any offense that Drew, at one point just starts throwing it up, and of course gets intercepted in the end zone actually twice in a row. One gets called back for a penalty. He just does it again because I think they were so desperate for offense that they're just like, we might as well just play 500 out here. I don't want to see that. I want to see them keep their process clean, get in the end zone certainly more than once, and get over that 24-point mark. If the Bills had gotten over 24, they would have been either a 2-point game, a 1-point game, a tie, or a win. That's the goal right there. Is you got to get over 24. You have no chance. You have no chance if you don't get over 24 against the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I think one element of that for Drew Lock is going to be getting some help from Pat Shurmur, and maybe this is the game where you don't want an aggressive push the ball downfield game plan. Now, you want to have a vertical option on a lot of plays, but you want to make sure that when he drops back or he rolls out, that you've got some viable short to intermediate options, because one way to beat the Chiefs is by having a bunch of drives that chew up 8 to 10 plays. And you don't have to do that with the run. You can do that with short passes to Melvin Gordon if he plays, Noah Fant if he plays, Phillip Lindsay. I don't think KJ Hamler will be out there, but maybe if Deshaun Hamilton can hang on to the ball, work him in out of the slot. Take the 5 to 7 yard passes when they're there. Create those opportunities to where Drew Lock, when he drops back, has guys at multiple levels, and if the guy who's open is open short, take the yardage, go on to the next play, and be able to build some confidence, build some consistency, while also playing keep away from Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and guys, do I want 24 points plus? Yeah, absolutely. The Broncos don't have a chance unless they're putting up 30 points in this game. 24 points would make it a respectable game. But guys, I just think you're kind of blowing the expectations out of the water from what we've seen. In the past 3 games that Drew Lock has started and has played the entire game, he hasn't got to 20 points once. He's got to 18, he's got to 14, and he's got to 16 against the Raiders last year. So you have to go back to that Detroit game, and it was a terrible Detroit team, where that Broncos team put up over 20 points. And Ryan, if you want to take the Kansas City Chiefs out because you say it was fluky, well, I'll do what Mace does, and I'll take the lowest scoring game out, and I'll take the highest scoring game out. And Drew Lock, as a starting quarterback, has averaged 19.6 points per game. So I would love to see 24 points. I would love to see 27, 30 points. I'm just saying. And would it be disappointing if it is that 22 mark with 5 field goals? Of course, that would be disappointing. You're going to be saying needed to convert. But I'm also looking at Drew as making his 9th start, playing in his 8th full game in the NFL right now. So this will be progress for me, is just taking one more step. Okay, not 6 field goals, you get a touchdown. So, yes, I agree with what you guys are saying. I also think Drew may throw an interception, but if he throws 1 pick, I want to see 2 touchdowns on top of that.
Yeah, so I feel like there's so much nuance to those games. You talk about the Tennessee game, that they had 1st and goal from the 1. They weren't able to convert. And they don't get those points, but just hear me out here. You talk about this Patriots game, they probably should have scored over 30 points. So I'm not saying you have to take that into account in terms of when you're evaluating those games. What I'm saying is I need to see them eventually start putting those in the end zone. And this week, there's no better time to start than now. So I get what you're saying, which is that they haven't done it, but I want to see them do it. And I think, I understand your process, which is, okay, well, they did make progress. They scored 1 touchdown and 5 field goals. And honestly, you're probably right that if the Broncos move the ball effectively enough to score 6 times in this game, it's not going to feel that bad. It'll be disappointing because they had an opportunity to win against the Chiefs. But the more I think about what you're saying, the more I think you're right. If that was the case, I think we'll probably feel as good or better about Drew Lock after the game. But we will be just saying eventually they have to start scoring these, and that's not all on Drew. It's, as we saw last week, there's a lot of people who go into not scoring when you get in the red zone, starting with Pat Shurmur, Drew Lock, the receivers. There's a lot to it, but eventually they're going to have to break through. And in this game, they have no choice but to if they want to compete. I want to see them break through more. I know that this offense is capable. I know that Drew Lock is capable of putting up 30 points. And yeah, you take away the Chiefs game, then you take away the Texans game, but there's nothing fluky, in my opinion, about the Texans game as much as there is about the Chiefs game. So I know that they're capable of doing that when they execute at a high level. They got to start eventually. This week, the pressure's on. If you don't do it, you're going to lose. It's pretty much, already written down. There's a lot of games where you can get away with what you did last week. You beat what I think is a pretty damn good team without scoring touchdowns. This week, it's just not acceptable if you want to compete in the game. I want to see them compete in the game.
And here's another thing about this game. The Patriots aren't going to, the Chiefs aren't going to turn the ball over 3 times like the Patriots did last week. You may be lucky to get 1 takeaway from them. And one of the things that the Broncos defense did to help the Broncos offense was they got them the ball pretty much twice in field goal range. I think the Broncos had to move about 5 yards on one drive to fully get into Brandon McManus's range. So the defense set them up there. If the defense doesn't do that, maybe the offense doesn't score, and then we're talking about 12 points for the Broncos offense. So I think if you're talking about 6 scoring drives as well, of course I'd be disappointed in 5 field goals. I would be getting on them for that as well. But I think it would mean the offense was doing more because, guys, what should the defense expect in terms of turnovers? 1?
Yeah, you can't 1 at best, and unless you can somehow poke it out from the Chiefs on special teams on a punt return or a kickoff return. And don't forget, you had those 6 scoring drives last week. You had 2 short field drives where the Broncos scored without getting a first down.
Yeah,
and they had to settle for a field goal. So they were, if not for the field position, we would have been talking about 2 3-and-outs for the offense, and that's just not going to cut it in this game. Actually, if we 2 3-and-outs on scoring drives, they had 2 other 3-and-outs in the second half of that game. So this is it. They've got to capitalize on the opportunities when they come, and part of that is going to be on Drew Lock and making sure he makes the right reads. This is not the game where you want to force it in a double coverage. This is the game where you want to take what's there, even if it's that 5-yard dump off, even if it's Drew getting out of the pocket, scrambling, getting to the sidelines with a 6-yard run.
Yep.
That's okay. This is the thing that the Broncos offense needs to think in terms of here is, just as they say in baseball, keep the line moving. It's okay to take a walk.
Yes.
It's okay to work the count. It's okay to take what they're going to give you. That's the mindset the Broncos need to have, because it has the added benefit of not only keeping you on the field but extending a drive and keeping Patrick Mahomes off the field, which has to be part of your game plan.
Drew's had some great lines in the media when talking about, balancing being a gunslinger and not, pretty much he said shooter's going to shoot in terms of being a gunslinger. Mm. And then he's also said you can't go broke if you're making a profit. So he needs to balance those, where last week, and along with Pat Shurmur as well, he needs to be in there helping Drew balance these with the play calls as well. But I don't want to see the Broncos not take shots, but also if a shot is a little too questionable in this game, just take the profit, live to see the next down.
And that's where hopefully being at full strength, having Melvin Gordon back, having Noah Fant's going to help, and also thinking in terms of capitalizing when you do get in the red zone. Remember, with Melvin Gordon, Noah Fant, you are talking about 2/3 of the offensive touchdowns the Broncos have had this year coming from those 2 players. So in thinking about everything last week, you can't discount the absence of Fant and Gordon in terms of the struggles that you had there.
Yeah, and the one that just kills me, when I was rewatching this game, And I saw Drew Lock going through his process, and out of his process was, okay, if I have single coverage, I'm throwing it. And I love that process, and it just kills me that Cortland Sutton isn't on the other end of these, because I've been saying that, since the day Cortland Sutton got the Broncos facilities. I'm like, oh my God, if this guy has single coverage, just give him a chance. And I think part of me thinks that like Drew Lock learned that this offseason, and now it's part of his DNA, which is just like, if I have single coverage with one of my outside receivers, I just want to give him a chance. And if Cortland Sutton's out there, we know it's 60-40 at worst for him. So it's just such a bummer that we're not even going to get to see that this year. And we talk so much about, giving Vic Fangio a break because of the injuries and giving all these people a break because of the injuries. I think Drew Lock deserves a little bit of slack too. He's not going to have his Pro Bowl number one receiver at any point this year, and that really sucks.
Yeah.
Real quick, how would you feel about this stat line? 22 of 33, 311 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Broncos lose by 3.
Great. Feel great about it.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is Justin Herbert against the Chiefs. Now, that's a that's a no tape game, which I think he gets a little bit of bump for. But of course, he turned around and backed it up the next week with another 70% completions, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I don't want to see that interception, but I know for a fact if Drew puts that line up and the Broncos lose by 3 in overtime, in that case, we'll be feeling good.
What was it? Was that a 23-20 game? 26-23? Okay.
23-20. That means they held them to 20 points in regulation.
Yeah.
If you do that, you should win.
And didn't in that game, the Chargers got out in front early, didn't they? And didn't they have their 2 touchdowns in the first half, and they kind of faded again as the Chiefs adjusted to what Justin Herbert was throwing at them. So I would say the context and the process does matter a little bit, because you don't want a scenario where this team jumps out in front early and the Chiefs come back and win. Like if the Broncos are up 2 scores and they blow it, then the storyline is, well, why did they blow it? And did Drew Lock have a part in that, or was it something else that happened? Was it execution? Was it play calling, etc.? Again, that's where these things get hazy.
Did the Chargers? Am I remembering correctly? Did the Chargers punt the ball on 4th and 1 in overtime?
I believe they did.
That is not how you beat the Chiefs. In fact, guys, I think a key to this game is going to be Vic Fangio on 4th and 1 at some point in field goal range. You're gonna have to go for it. And I know Brandon McManus, shout out to Brandon for AFC special teams player for a 2nd consecutive game for him. But he's money. So Vic's going to say, how can I pass up points when I'm playing the Chiefs? But at least once in this game, if the Broncos want to win, they're going to have to do the bold thing and keep Brandon McManus back on the sideline. Maybe if it's like a 4th and 3 or closer.
Bold, but not stupid. Okay.
Yeah. Right.
I don't want to see another attempt at a fake punt like we saw last year. I mean, that going for it unexpectedly is defensible. Going for it like that, a play design that rivals the Supercross when I was playing street football as a kid, and the 2 receivers bumped into each other downfield, and I wanted them kind of crossing each other's routes, and they bumped into each other, took each other out. I mean, that's ill-advised. That's stupid. So don't be 13-year-old Mace with a bad play design. If you're going to go for it, just
go for it.
Go for it with something that you know is works. And I would say this: if you go for, let's say it's 4th and 2 at midfield. This isn't just a 4th and 1 situation. 4th and 2 at midfield. Vic and Pat Shurmur have to look and say, what is the most reliable thing that we have to get 2 yards, and run it.
Noah Fant jet sweep.
Noah Fant quick out. I know you're jumping with the Fant jet sweep. But I'm thinking 2 tight ends, and I'm thinking get Noah Fant into the flat. Boom. 2 yards and give him a chance for more.
If this was Madden, I guarantee you that would be my play.
I never throw the out in Madden. It's so scary. I'm actually in full support of a fake punt. I just like being aggressive. Now, Tom McMahon hasn't exactly shown a propensity for drawing up good fake punts. So maybe he can get some outside help with this.
I'll be happy to help.
Yes, me too.
Find my number.
I just think you're right. Like, I wonder what the scoring percentage difference is for the Chiefs, whether they start at the 50 or whether they start at the 20. Now, of course, you trust Sam Martin to put them down at the 10 or the 5, but it's something you have to take into account. It's not guaranteed that you're going to pin them. So you have to take into account the chances that they're going to start at the 20 and the chances of you converting it versus the chances if they're going to score if they start at the 50. I bet you the difference is under 10% difference. And I think the Broncos have to take that into account. I think coaches a lot of times want to say, like, we're not going to get desperate because, that's not who we are. We have to play our game. Wrong. You're wrong. You have to get desperate. If you want to beat the Chiefs, you have to play like they're a lot better than you because they are a lot better than the Broncos. Now, you can beat them. We know in the NFL, anyone can beat anyone on any given day. But you cannot beat them just with your normal process. You're going to have to get creative. You're going to have to get aggressive. And you're going to have to take risks. This is how it works. If you're going to bet on an underdog, you're taking a risk. Well, if the Broncos, I think they want to bet on themselves. And it's gonna take risks.
What's so weird about this game is I think the Broncos are playing with house money. Being at 2-3, getting the win last week allows them to lose this game. So it's weird at 2-3 saying they're playing with house money in this game, but they kind of are. They've got nothing to lose. If they don't win this game, their season is still alive. If they win this game, holy smoke. So for me, don't go for the close loss and keep up with them. Of course, if you do that, that's awesome. But go for the win. And do the things that you would do when you're playing with house money. Take those gambles.
Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And Mace, I feel like you're someone who would say you don't believe in house money. I have a buddy who, when we're at the casino, I'm like, "This is house money," and he's like, "No, it's your money. You already won it.
You already won it." And the other thing is, you should have consistency on what you do. I mean, if you are somebody who hits on 16, you keep hitting on 16.
And that's not a reference to minors.
Yeah. Wow.
Good to get that out there.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the clarification for those who don't know blackjack at all. But be consistent. I mean, evaluate the situation and know what you're going to do. So you're decisive about it. So, for example, if you go into this game and say, all right, anytime we are outside our 40-yard line, we are going for it on 4th and 2. Unless it's a situation where we're up 6 in the final moments and a field goal puts us up 9. Okay? But you decide that and you say, and you've already made that choice. Thus, there's not any wasted time on the sideline dithering about, all right, are we going to go for it? Are we not going to go for it? Are we going to send the punt team out? Or are we not going to do that? You're focused on the play call. And again, get down to what you feel the bread and butter of your offense is. What can you do best to get those yards that keep the drive going? Make sure you've made those decisions, those overarching tactical choices now.
Yep.
And then you can act quickly, and you know what? You do that, you get the play call in quickly, you get set quickly, you might just be able to draw them offside on top of them. On top of that, you may be able to get the first down without running a play.
Yep. I certainly hope it comes down to a decision like that where the Broncos are winning and they have to decide whether they're going to kick a field goal or go for a touchdown because,
but if you've planned properly, you've already made the choice.
Yep. There's only been one. I think there's only been one Chiefs game since Patrick Mahomes has been the quarterback that the Broncos even had a chance in.
Yeah, that the Case Keenum overthrow of DT.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm. You know what? I'm still mad at how people tried to blame DT for that.
Oh my God! Everyone always tries to blame DT for everything. They're probably trying to blame DT for Albert Okwuegbunam dropping touchdowns last week.
That poor guy is the most unappreciated Bronco in the last 20 years.
I'll never forget. We were down on the field. It was inside 2 minutes, so we're down on the field, and like I just can't get the view out of my mind. Like you see, because from our angle, we're kind of looking at the field like this, and
Right.
it was on that side of the field. So we had like a perfect angle of where the ball needed to go and the way it was traveling, and like you just see DT wide open up the sidelines, and the ball like leaves his hand, and as soon as it left his hand, I was just like, he missed him.
Yeah, I was up in the press box. I was going to ask you if you felt it had a chance when it left his hand, because sitting up in the press box, getting my post game story ready, I looked, and I the moment it left his hand, I'm like, oh no.
Yep. I knew it right away. I couldn't believe it either, especially because it was still early in the season and it wasn't that far removed from Case Keenum making that throw like 10 times a day in practice.
We had not yet lost hope at that point.
Yeah. Crazy.
That was the start of it.
Oh,
Monday Night Football. Patrick Mahomes threw a left-handed pass, and it would have all been for naught if Case Keenum just made that throw.
And now Case Keenum is Baker Mayfield's backup.
Maybe starting this
Playing,
week.
yes.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Speaking of playing this week, last thing I want to do here is just touch on the injury situations. I know we haven't gotten any updates, but Zach, just recount your story from Monday as to where guys are at, who might have a chance to go this week, and then give me your personal opinion on whether you think they're going to go.
A lot of guys have a chance this week. Noah Fant, AJ Boye, KJ Hamler, Draymond Jones, DeMarcus Walker, Melvin Gordon. That's 6 guys. That's 3 starters, and all 3 important starters for the Broncos. Right now, I'm at the point where I think Noah Fant plays. I think Draymond Jones plays. Not sure on DeMarcus Walker. Have to see him this week. KJ Hamler, no, I think he's 1 week away. And I do think AJ Boye plays. And of course, Melvin Gordon plays as well. So Broncos get some huge pieces back against the Chiefs.
Mace, are you on the same lines there?
Yeah, and I feel like with a lot of those guys, the long-term plan for them, like for AJ Boye, for example, was pointing to trying to have him available for this game.
Yep.
So this week, it's been in mind for a long time.
Yeah, the other one injury that probably won't go is Dalton Reisner. Gonna be tough, at least, for him to go. But Austin Schlottman stepped in and was admirable in that game.
He's a good swing interior backup. I mean, that's put it this way. I think he's better as the swing interior guy than Elijah Wilkinson as the swing tackle.
Yes.
Yeah. Very, very impressed with Austin in his relief role with Dalton.
All right, well, we'll learn a little bit more today from injury updates when we talk to these guys. So we'll let you guys know, of course, tomorrow. Thanks for everyone who tuned into the live. We'll keep it rolling on the podcast side of things.